First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessors, transmitting masters, lectors, and everyone here today for the opportunity to, continue this topic, having the correct outlook on life for Tao cultivators. Okay, so last time we were talking about this value creating outlook on life. And so we mentioned that there's the value that we're really talking about is the lasting value, the value that has longevity, which basically means like the spirit, someone, their spirit, whether, that could include their virtues, of course, their virtues that, and, basically intangible stuff as opposed to the tangible. I mean, there are things that we may do, let's say we create something, but these things, these tangible things don't necessarily last, right? But our ideas, right? Our words, our teachings, the virtues, things like that do last. And so, we were talking about like Master Yemhui, even though, you can say he didn't really leave anything behind materially, in a tangible way, but the intangible things that he left behind was, his virtue, basically, how he cultivated. Those are the things that last, that have longevity, and people always remember him for those things. And they can, inspire people as well. Okay. All right. So, all right. So now, how do we live a meaningful and a valuable life? You can say also a worthy life or worthwhile life. Okay. A person of value, or, you say of self-worth, they come crying into the world, okay? But they also make other people smile and laugh, right? And he leaves the world smiling, but bringing tears to those around him. Right? So everyone is born into the world crying, but a person of value or worth starts to make others smile and laugh from the moment he is born. Right? That's because they love their siblings, they are filial to their parents, they respect their teachers, they help their friends. In other words, they're you can say they're virtuous. And therefore, the people around are happy and always full of smiles and laughter. Right? A person of value or worth does things according to his conscience. Right? When it's time to leave the world, he leaves with a smile, right? Making the people around feel sad for the loss of such a benefactor, right? Because other people have basically derived some benefit from this person. On the other hand, right, a person without values or worth, he's also born crying, but the people around are frequently hurt and crying bitterly because he bullies his siblings, even scolds and rebels against or betrays his parents, etc. These, kind of the unvirtuous things that, that it might do, okay? Then when he's about to die, right, he is hesitant and cries. And the people around say, oh, good riddance, right? This person is finally dead, and set off firecrackers in celebration. All right, so that's an extreme, but yeah, this is just to show that, yeah, there's certain people, I guess, in this world, and maybe that there aren't that many, but certain people who like we really say, wow, man, it's good that this person is no longer alive because this person has caused everyone misery, right? So clearly a person like this lived, you can say, a meaningless and valueless or worthless life. Okay, I mean, obviously it's that's good. That's the very extreme. But okay, now this is really what this formula or this equation. So it's saying that we added value, or you can say it's our own value, our true value, our self-worth, right? Self-worth is equal to, on the numerator is for others, what we do for others. And in the denominator, we have what we do for ourselves. Okay, so clearly, this is very simple math, right? If the numerator, the number on top is greater than the number on bottom, well, then you have a number that's greater, right? And so that, and the other way around, if the number on top is smaller and then the number on the bottom, then you have a smaller number. In fact, it's less than one. So this is one way to view the added value, the value that we add to this world, you can say, to this world, to others. Okay. And I also equate that to self-worth, because even though we're adding value to others, right, that is also our value, our worth, right? This is what, if we are giving people value, right, then, we are worth more, right? We are worth something to those people, right? Okay, so now, so the first type of person forgets the self, forgets themselves, right? And therefore, the denominator approaches zero, and his added value and self-worth approaches infinity, okay? So this type of person is completely considerate of others, thinks and does things for the sake of others without a thought for oneself, right? In the end, his reputation and legacy is passed down through the ages and remembered throughout history as a great person, right? The person grants favor to and benefits the people and places. After death, he is in the hearts and minds of future generations, and they build bronze statues honoring him. Now that is what he gets in return. So basically, adding value to others is the same as adding value to oneself, right? And increasing one's self-worth. Okay, so so he is a selfless person, right, whose added value approaches infinity. Even more, there are people who think of sentient beings, right? So this is basically the me thinking for others, right? Or you can say this is the one for all, right? They're always compassionate, right? Spread the grace widely and are not limited by space and time, right? And so, after completing their mission, they achieve and attain Tao, right? They've transcended as well. They become a saint, they become a Bodhisattva, Buddha, right? Leaving behind a legacy and reputation that later generations will admire and honor. They will build temples and pay homage or worship this person. So this is where it becomes all for one. So they live their lives with this model, you can say, one for all, right? They live for other sentient beings, just like that's really like a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva does that, right? They will sacrifice themselves for sentient beings, for all sentient beings. But and in the end, right, then everyone will, you can say, heap praise on, they would admire, they would respect, they would worship even, that person after they've, left this world. Okay, so that's the all for one. So it's like, one for all, and then you can say it complete the circle by coming back with all for one. Now, all right. Okay, so that's one type of person. So there aren't that many of these people either. This is like one extreme where they are remembered. So you have saints, sages, the Buddhas. Now, for the second type of person, the numerator, the for others part, is near. It's probably okay. Let's say it's near zero. Okay, so they don't really do things for others. Okay, they don't really have consideration for others. They don't really help others, benefit others much. Right, this type of person takes the attitude of basically every man for himself. Okay, so he's only looking out for number one, right? Number one, he's number one. Now, his contribution to society is insignificant and fades away with the grass and trees, right? So, because, yeah, no one's really going to remember him. I mean, he didn't really benefit society much at all. Okay, so he's like an ordinary star in the night sky, right? One more star won't make a difference. Well, it won't make the night sky brighter, and one less star will not make the night sky darker either, right? So in other words, it doesn't make that much difference in the world. You know the type, right? It's the person who, when they're looking at a photograph, right, they first try to find themselves, right? Blaming the lousy photographer for taking a bad picture of them. Right? He won't even acknowledge or compliment, how, let's say it's the picture with him and the parents, right? How his parents look in the picture, right? So this person is all about self. It's about their ego. Okay, so now, yeah, so yeah, that's another type. Now, of course, when we're talking about types of people, there's a whole broad spectrum, right? It's a whole range. It's not just like, oh, we can't say there's one type, two types, three types. It's just like the whole range in between, because then these, right? So it's like one extreme to the other extreme, and then maybe kind of in the middle, but the people, they cover the whole range. Okay. Now, the third type of person, right, is even worse. And you might think, well, how can it be worse? Like, let's say if the for others is 0, right? You might think, well, okay, so there's no added value. There's 0 value, 0 worth. How can it be worse? Well, it can be worse if the numerator, what they do for others, is actually negative. Now, what does that mean? So basically, this type of person takes advantage of and harms others for his own benefit. So it's not only he doesn't do anything good for others, he's actually doing bad things to others. All right. So that's what makes it negative, and that's the worst, the other extreme. Okay. So this type of person, okay, so bringing destruction upon, even, in terms of like if they happen to be a leader of a country, they might bring destruction upon the country and also the people, right? There are many in history, there are many loyal ministers who were killed by these types of, you can say they're traitors to their country, traitors to humankind, actually. Now, so people of this type are infamous, right, for their evil deeds and atrocities, and are remembered only for their evil reputation, as they have no redeeming qualities, right? So, is this how we want to be remembered? I say obviously not, right? Or do we want to be remembered in history as a person of respect and honor, right? A good role model to inspire others, right? So that would be the other extreme. Now, it all depends on how we conduct ourselves in everyday life. If we can strengthen our positive qualities and that are beneficial to others, we can enhance our own value or worth and remain in the hearts and minds of people for a long time. Okay, so therefore, right, our true value or worth is measured in how much we benefit others over our own self-benefit. Right, so that's I mean, we keep talking about this, really. It's like being selfless, right? So yeah, there is no, if we can get rid of that self, this bottom part of the equation here, then if that goes to 0, then yeah, then the no matter how much we do for others, it doesn't have to be that much. It could be more, whatever, more or less. Then this value goes to infinity. Okay, so that's what we should keep in mind, and maybe we should strive for that. Okay. Okay, so this is this allegory about the value of money. You probably heard this thing, and there are probably different variations of this allegory or story. Right? Says a famous speaker at a conference of, a few hundred people, he took out this $20 bill and said to the audience, all right, who wants this $20 bill? Right? Immediately, right, a lot of people raised their hands. Right? The speaker looked at the raised hands and chuckled, okay, I'm going to give it to you, to one of you, but first I'm going to do this. And he crumpled the bill and asked again, so who wants it now? Now there weren't as many people who raised their hands. Says, okay, so very good. Now I'm going to do this. And, he threw the bill onto the floor and he stomped on it with his feet, with his shoes. And then he picked it up and says, okay, now this bill is crumpled and it's dirty. Who wants it? Still, there were a few people who raised their hands. Right. So then the speaker says, well, I think we all learned a valuable lesson here. Right? No matter what I do to this $20 bill, right, you still want it because it still has its value. Right? It is still a usable legal tender worth $20. Right? So it doesn't matter what the appearance of that bill is. It still has its inherent net worth or actual worth of $20. Now, obviously, if you split in half, then you might have a problem with that. But anyways, so in other words, we don't look at the appearance, right, for its actual value. Is not necessarily in its appearance. Okay. Now, yes. So there are many times in our lives when we stumble or become overwhelmed to the point. Let me see here. It is not lost. Oh, okay. So to the point of being dejected or depressed. Okay. So when these situations arise, we feel a sense of helplessness. Right? But no matter what happens or will happen, we will not lose our own self-worth or value. Right? Because each one of us is special, right? We are still who we are. You can say, yeah, we're all unique, right? The more we are tempered, refined, whatever, the more mature and stronger we become. Just like the piece of gold, right, that is dirty and exposed to the elements, it does not lose its inherent value, right? You just need to clean it, polish it again. As long as we firmly believe, do not let yesterday's sadness overshadow tomorrow's dreams, right? We should immediately pick ourselves up and bring forth that positive energy and use a compassionate, loving heart to care for the people around us. That value is still there. If we can continue to develop and strengthen this function, right, then the value of people can be enhanced accordingly. Okay, so the true value and worth is really it's in our heart and mind. Okay, it's not the things that happen to us, or we lose something, or something happens to us, and then we think we're not worth as much. That's not true. We have that inherent value or worth, which really doesn't change. Well, it changes based on our heart and mind, right? So based on what we do with our lives. Okay, if we can be of benefit to others, if we become selfless, then that value increases. All right, so but again, what's happening on the outside does not affect that. Okay, so here's another allegory: selling a stone. So this young novice monk asked the old monk, how can a person be valuable? Right? The old monk did not respond directly. Instead, asking the novice monk to take a stone from the meditation room and go to the street to ask people to make an offer on the stone. Right? So the next day, from early in the morning until the evening, nobody had any interest in the stone. Right? As the novice monk was closing his stall, right, a grandfather and his grandson walked by. Right? The grandson said, "Grandpa, can you buy that stone for me to play with at home?" Grandfather asked the novice monk, "Hey, little master, I have only 50 I don't know, $50 or whatever, 50 cents in my pocket. Can you sell me the stone for that price? Then, the novice monk, he shook his head and packed up everything and walked back to the monastery and reported everything that happened to the old monk. Actually, the old monk instructed the novice to just get a price, right? Get a price on the stone. Don't actually sell it. Okay, so now the old monk told the novice to put the stone in a beautiful box, right, and take it to an antique shop to be auctioned, or get an appraisal for comparison. Right, so early in the morning, right, the novice monk left the monastery and presented the stone to the owner of the antique shop. Right, the owner saw that the shape of the stone was unique and had a, I don't know, quote unquote Zen quality to it. Okay, it was also the old monk's favorite stone, right? So he knew, I guess, that it was the old monk's favorite stone. And for a long time, having been on the receiving end of the old monk's sutra and mantra chanting and merit dedication, right? So possessing this stone can protect and bring peace and good health to the whole family, right? So, so the owner immediately offered $500,000, okay, for the stone, right? The novice monk shook his head just as he did before and took the stone back to the monastery and reported to the old monk. The old monk then said, well, do you know why one person offered $50 and another offered $500,000 for the same stone? Well, because they had different determinations about the stone's functionality, what it can do for them, what's the usefulness to them, right? Different functionalities result in different values of worth. Therefore, the price will be different, right? So we can say that the value, to others is relative, of course. It's in the eye of the beholder, just like we say, beauty is the eye of the beholder. It's all relative. So one person, there's a saying, one person's trash is another person's gold or something, or treasure, right? So it depends on, what they see in it, what they see, how it can be used, right, for them. So that's why you can have different valuations. People give different valuations. They think, oh, this person thinks it's worth this much. The other person thinks it's worth a lot more, right? So it's all perceived on the outside. So therefore, it's not like, well, you can say one of the points here is that we cannot determine our own, that worth, that value for ourselves, right? Because we're not the one, it's other people are making that judgment. So, I can't say that, oh, I'm so virtuous, I do all these good deeds, so I have great value, and people should remember me for the rest, for generations. It's not, we cannot say that, right? It's other people, they make that determination about us, right? Whether we qualify for that, right? To be remembered in that way, okay? So that's kind of the thing. So it's not like, oh, you can say if it's from the self-evaluation point of view, then that you can say that that's absolute, but it's not. It's all relative, and it depends on others. You can say it's other people's perspective on that. Okay. Okay, so how do we enhance our value then? Right? To sum it up in a phrase, it is one for all and all for one, right? Now, okay, so there's this another allegory, okay? So eating in heaven and hell in heaven. So once upon a time, right, there was a man whose soul, right, could travel to the underworld, right? And he saw a sumptuous banquet with exotic delicacies on the table. Right? He thought that everyone would eat all this food to their heart's content, but actually, everyone was just as famished as he was looking at it. So it's all these souls, poor souls down in hell. They're looking at this banquet table with all that sumptuous, scrumptious food, and they can't. It seems like they can't eat it, right? So they're starving. Now it turns out that there's one rule in this place, that you have to use chopsticks or forks that are longer than your arms. Okay, so, okay. Now, therefore, the souls over there, they could only look at the mouth-watering food and were constantly tormented because they could not eat it, right? Because they're trying to feed themselves. And because the chopsticks or forks are too long, you can't put the food in their mouth. Now, after seeing this, right, this person's soul traveled up to heaven, right? There he also saw a sumptuous banquet with exotic delicacy, okay? And however, everyone here was very happily eating. And although the rule was the same, right? Everyone had to use the long chopsticks and forks. So what was different? How can they be eating? Well, instead of picking up food for themselves, they were picking up food and feeding someone else. So, right? So this is called, I feed others and others feed me. Okay, so actually in Chinese, this will wait, right? So up here he says, well, wait, ren wei wo. Okay, so I am for others, others for me. But in Chinese, this way, well, kind of same sound basically, is to feed, right? I feed others, others feed me. Okay, so it's kind of play on words there. I guess that you call that a pun. Okay. So, so this, so therefore, by enhancing our value, right, heaven is right in front of us, right? So in other words, hey, I don't have to feed myself. I feed others, and then others will do the same. They'll feed me too. So that's like being in heaven, really. Whereas, everyone for themselves is like being in hell, right? So let's encourage everyone to bring heaven to this world, right? And create a pure land on earth together, which is also the great benevolent wish or vow of Maitreya Buddha, right? So, so the idea is, right, not to be so selfish. And sometimes we have, if we naturally, we don't really have to think about it, really. It's like we just naturally, it's a natural thing to do to try to benefit others. In this case, we're feeding others. And when we can do that, others will return payback in kind, right? They will also feed us. Okay, so that's kind of like, that's heaven, right? Everyone benefits. Okay, so now let's talk about the selfless outlook on life. Okay, to achieve great mercy or compassion without cause or condition, and great pity of oneness is the way of the Bodhisattva. Okay, so what is oneness, right? You can think of this analogy. It's like, so the saliva in your mouth, right? It's easy to swallow, right? When our saliva, but if we spit it out on our hand and then we try to lick it, suck it back into our mouths, then it's kind of difficult. We think it's disgusting, right? So it's very difficult to do because why? Because it's no longer within our body, right? And we think, okay, it's no longer a part of our body, right? So that's kind of we think, oh, that's outside, forget it, Now, okay, so we should learn, though, to be like water, as Lao Tzu said, when describing the virtues of water, that it benefits all without contention or bias, right? So, Lao Tzu emphasizes that we should not be too self-centered, okay, too proud or flaunting ourselves, whether it's our abilities or our wealth or our power, etc., right? Because that will only create envy in others. Okay, and then they're gunning for. If we're up there, people are gunning for us. Right? It's like trying to be the king of the hill, but everyone wants to knock you down. Okay, we must know that those who are pretentious cannot reveal themselves. Right. So in other words, they can't reveal their true selves. Right. Try to be someone they are not, and they or they're covering up their deficiencies. Right? Those who believe they are always right or perfect do not understand things, right? Those who brag do not have merit or achievements. Those who flaunt are not acknowledged or recognized or approved by others, right? So that's Tao Te Ching chapter 24. Now, by not putting oneself ahead of others, right? In other words, humility or courtesy, right? One can be a true leader, okay? Superior person, right? So that's, and then, so that's one of the qualities of water. It doesn't really contend with anything, and it always stays low, right? Now, so Lao Tzu, is also saying that, being soft, just like water, soft, gentle, mild, or you could say calm, is a necessary characteristic of being in the state of bliss and happiness. Right? Things that are hard and firm do not dominate, but are easily destroyed. Right? Therefore, Lao Tzu says, right, people are soft when alive, but stiff when dead. Right? Grass and trees are flexible when alive, but dry and brittle when dead. Right? So that's Tao Te Ching chapter 76. Right? Therefore, not to be in front, right, and the soft overcomes the hard are principles of Tao. Right? There are many examples in nature. For example, water can penetrate rocks. You can witness, for example, like the Grand Canyon, erosion, whatever. It took millions, how many millions of years, we don't know, but it can be done, okay? Or you could say closer to home, right? We can say the soft, flexible tongue outlives the hard teeth, right? So, we live to an old age, but, we lose our teeth, but, our tongue is still fine. So that just shows that the soft or the gentle, that quality is, in the end, it overcomes the hard, okay? Now, Lao Tzu also believed that true happiness comes from enduring peace and tranquility, not from temporary pleasures, right? Gain with less and be confused with more, right? In Tao Te Ching chapter 22. Basically, the more, the less we have, the more we gain. It sounds counterintuitive, I guess. I don't know. But it's true, right? The more we have, we get more confused. We think either we get more attached, right? Or we think, oh, we need more. So that's not the way. And it says, the 5 colors make us blind, the 5 sounds make us deaf, and the 5 flavors make us numb to taste. Excessive desires lead to a state of madness or frantic, going wild. Okay, so that's in chapter 12. Now, so this is not a good way to pursue happiness. Actually, dissatisfaction or discontentment is the root of all vexation and worries. Therefore, Lao Tzu said, right, there is no misfortune greater than dissatisfaction, no calamity greater than desire and gain. Right, that's chapter 46. So we just have to know and realize that our true self nature has everything it ever needs and is capable of everything. Right, so if our heart and mind can be tranquil and content, then we can achieve contentment without disgrace or dishonor. Right, this is in chapter 44, and the richness or wealth of contentment, chapter 33. Okay, so Lao Tzu said a lot of things, which you can say that's the Tao of life. Okay, if we can follow those principles, the philosophy, then we can be successful. Maybe not in the sense of today's society, what they expect. When they say, oh, being successful, like being a billionaire or being so famous, it's in fact, it's kind of the opposite of those. All right. Okay. So, yeah. So, ultimately, so contentment, we have to realize that, we have to be content. We have to be satisfied with things. Thinking that, well, we need this, we need that, we need other things that we don't have, then we're always worried, we're always vexed. We have vexations, say, how can I get those things, and we're not happy. Okay. So being content is being happy. Okay. And ultimately, if we're talking about the intangible, our true nature, right? Self nature, it has everything, right? It doesn't even need this body that we have. Okay. So, But we kind of forget that because our view is coming from this view of this self, this physical self, right? Okay. All right, so now let's talk about the optimistic outlook on life. So an optimistic outlook on life is a main point in the spirit of cultivation, right? What do we mean by optimism? Right? Optimism means that we see everything in a positive light. Therefore, we feel very happy. On the other hand, what do we mean by pessimism? Pessimism means we see everything in a negative light, right? Or only the dark side, with the result that we feel very sad. If we are optimistic, what we see, right, is the part that we still have. So we are always full of hope, right? So we are looking for the Xi. Okay, so in Chinese, right, this Xi Wang is hope, right? But this Wang means to look. You can say to look forward to or whatever. And then so we're looking at this here, the Xi, okay, which is by itself, it could mean, it could also mean hope, but it can also mean rare. So, but anyways, it's looking at something, all right? On the other hand, if we are pessimistic, then we are always looking for the part that is missing or lost. Therefore, we are always disappointed and have lost hope, right? So again, 失望, right? It's to lose hope or disappointment. The Wang, we're looking at what's 失 is lost or what we've lost. Okay, so it's kind of interesting. Okay, then, right. So for example, if I give you a rare exotic fruit, right, that is very hard to come by. Now you think, let me save this fruit to eat in the morning so that I can enjoy it or savor it for the whole day. Right, so you leave it on the kitchen counter overnight. Right, the next morning you get up looking forward to eating the rare exotic fruit. But when you go to the kitchen, you discover that only half the fruit is left. Right, you recognize the bite marks on the fruit as those of a mouse. At this point, there is a difference in the expression of a pessimistic person versus an optimistic person. Right, the pessimistic person would say, oh, why did I leave it overnight? If I had eaten it last night, I could have had the whole fruit to myself. That damn mouse better not let me catch it because it's going to be dead if I do. I missed that other half of the fruit. Now, and this will affect the mood of the pessimistic person all day as he regrets leaving the fruit overnight and he's thinking about the other half, right, that he was not able to eat. However, the optimistic person is different, right? He'll say, oh, thank you, Mr. Mouse, for being so kind, for leaving half the fruit for me to eat. Thank you. So are we happy or disappointed or troubled? Okay, so it depends on whether we are optimistic or pessimistic. Whether we see the half that remains or are fixated on the half that is missing. Okay, we should cherish and appreciate what we have instead of being fixated and attached to what is missing or lost. Therefore, a person must change or transform. Okay, so that's something, it's our mindset, right? We have to change our mindset. Now, if we always turn to face the sunlight, our shadow will always be behind us. If our back is always toward the sunlight, then we are always looking at our shadow. Then, so then how can we be happy in that case? All right. So yeah, I mean, you can say, the optimistic person looks at, the glass is half full, whereas the pessimistic one is the glass is half empty. Okay, so again, the point is that, when we're pessimistic, we're looking at what we lost or what we don't have. And then that just, we're in a bad mood. We're not in a good, we're not happy. Whereas someone who's looking at what they have, they cherish, and appreciate what they have. So this is related to contentment as well, that then they're happy, okay? Now there's a story about Thomas Edison. I don't know if this is really true, but it could be an apocryphal story. Now, one day Edison and his son were working hard in the laboratory. Suddenly the equipment in the lab exploded, right? And it started a fire. At this time, Edison took his son and ran out of the lab. Everything in the lab was destroyed by the ensuing fire, including the equipment and intellectual property, whatever. Now, Edison's son was very sad and tears rolled down his cheek as he watched the fire. At this time, Edison looked at his son and asked, where's your mom? His son said, if she sees this, she will faint. Edison replied, well, hurry up and bring your mom here. You don't tell her anything. I've been with your mom for half my life, and I have never seen such a spectacle as this raging fire. It's rare to see something like this. So what chance do we have of seeing something like this again, right? And he said one more thing to his son. Says, where there's life, there's hope, right? And a few months later, Edison would invent the phonograph that he was working on at the time. Okay, so do we have such a sense of confidence and forbearance, right? It's as if our own house is burning and we tell the neighbors, come quickly and see, our house is on fire, right? This is something that you don't see every day, right? So this is incredibly optimistic, or, you can say very hopeful, very confident, all right? Now, another, actually, I think it was Holy Teacher, says, hope is given to those who are optimistic, right? We have to, if we are not optimistic about things, then we are, you can say we're hopeless. I mean, then it's very hard, difficult to move forward, all right? Another example is Socrates. Right? Once he wasn't paying attention to the details and was scolded by his wife. But Socrates continued to do what he was doing. Then his wife looked at took a bucket and dumped it on him. Right? A person on the street saw this and wondered how can the man of the house be bullied by his wife like this? Right? So he privately said to Socrates, hey, what happened to your dignity? And Socrates replied, oh, life is like this, and so is nature. Right? Did you see the other day there was lightning and thunder, and then afterward there was this heavy downpour. Therefore, if we can adjust our mindset and see or explain things in a positive way, then we can be the happiest people in the world, right? Yeah, so really, misery, or you can say hell, is we create that ourselves. But at the same token, we also create heaven. We can create heaven. So again, it all depends on our mindset, all right? Okay. All right, so that's the optimistic. All right, so, and then this is the fourth outlook on life, the joyful giving outlook on life. So these are basically the four measurable minds of the Bodhisattva, right? We are dedicated, all right, so, only dedication without condition is loving kindness, right? Only sacrifice without self is compassion. Only duty without authority is happy joy. Only giving without possessing is equanimity, or you can say, relinquishment or renunciation. Okay. Now, so we are dedicated to delivering sentient beings from suffering without any conditions, right? This is loving kindness. We make sacrifices to deliver sentient beings without a thought for ourselves. This is compassion and pity. We perform our duties and obligations without wielding or assuming authority, right? This is happy joy and rejoicing. We give without claiming or holding on to anything. This is equanimity, relinquishment and charity. So, this, a lot of times, people, I don't know, maybe they just get caught up in well, all these things, right? The wealth, the power, fame, authority, etc., right? And they think, oh, I have this title, I have this authority, so I can, order you to do things. But actually, it's we have to learn to, perform our duties without having that air of authority, having that sense of authority, saying that, oh, I've given this power to do things. No, we should do it because it's our duty, right? And we do it happily, joyfully. Therefore, in order to reach the level of the four immeasurable minds of the Bodhisattva, we need to give with compassion and joy, right? Giving with love is like Okay, so this is kind of a like spraying perfume. Okay, so before we spray the perfume, we will smell the perfume first. Right. So, for example, when a person wants to give a surprise to his other half, right, he has the intention but has yet to act, but his face is already filled with a happy smile and immersed in joy. Right. On the other hand, if we want to make somebody suffer, when we are still thinking and scheming about it, our heart and mind is already plunged into the dark abyss. Right? What is heaven? Right? So we can ask the question, what is heaven? Right? When we are happy, we are in heaven. Heaven is not a specific time or space, right? The utmost good, right, is heaven. So the utmost good is basically following. We are doing things according to the Tao, doing things according to the true nature, Buddha nature, our conscience. Okay, when we feel the utmost true, the utmost good, and the utmost beauty, then we are in heaven. So everything we are doing is according to the Tao, according to the true nature. Then that is heaven, right? So that is when we feel the love, warmth, and the tranquility of home, then we can say that heaven is at home. If our heart and mind is full of cynicism, anger, resentment, and all manner of dissatisfaction, then it's a pity, because then there is no heaven in our lives. Okay, so again, it is our mindset. Okay, heaven and hell is, right, there's the saying, difference between heaven and hell is in the span of a thought. Okay, so whether we want to be in heaven or in hell, it's up to us. Now, if we want to create a life that is true, good, and beautiful, then we must treat people with a true heart and mind, and do things with a true heart and mind, and express good behavior and leave the beauty of virtue in people's hearts, right? Wishing to cherish this limited life to create infinite achievement, to pay attention to the cultivation of heart and mind, jointly pave the way for the world of great harmony. Right? Jointly bring heaven to the world, and jointly create a pure land on earth. Right? This is also my trio's compassionate vow. Right? So, have you thought about what your life is like? What kind of metaphor of life would you use? So these are questions for you to think about. Right? Do our current life and deeds have positive value, right, to others? Right? If we want to be saintly and virtuous, then at least we can be virtuous, if not saintly. Right? So in other words, that's our intent. That's what we wish to be, or you can say aspire to be, right? But if we aspire just to be an ordinary person, then all we will be is just an ordinary person, right? So one wrong or deviating thought will make a great difference. Therefore, we have to be careful, right? We can't be too careless. So think about how you can be of value and create value for others. All right. Okay. All right. So conclusion here, these are the 4 correct outlooks on life for Tao cultivators. We can create value through loving kindness. We can achieve selflessness through compassion and pity. Optimism through happy joy, and joyful giving through equanimity and relinquishment. So those are, linked to those 4 measurable minds. When we create value, create value, right? You can say that's also creating self-worth and value for others through loving kindness. The physical life is short, but the spirit can have longevity. If we create value, we demonstrate virtues and perform merits, we benefit others and inspire others, then our spirit will have longevity, living in the hearts and minds of future generations. Just as in business, right? We talk about adding value to products. Only in this case, our tangible value-added contributions are very limited, right? Because our intangible value-added contributions, which are, like ideas, words, deeds, virtues, are priceless, right? They continue to benefit future generations. So the value that we add is in the hearts and minds of people. We also add value by giving or doing things for others. right? That is what the one, the one for all. And what goes around comes around. In the end, everyone appreciates us and also gives back to us, right? That is the all for one. So one for all and all for one are, you can say, two sides of the same coin, right? They are one and the same. This is how we create lasting value. Now, the selfless outlook, consideration for others through compassion and pity that's the way of the Bodhisattva, right? When our heart and mind is as broad as the sea and sky, then we can encompass everything and all sentient beings. When we are at one with all, it means that we do things for others. We can benefit everyone. We do not contend with others. We know how to yield and let others go ahead of us. That is actually how we can lead through our selflessness. Our optimistic outlook, right? We look on the bright side or the positive side of things and generate hope through happy joy. We lose hope because we dwell on, or we're attached to or stuck on the part that was lost. When we can see that the glass is half full, only when we can see that when the glass is half full, can we have hope and move forward from the loss. When we focus on the loss, we are in misery or hell. When we focus on what we still have, we are appreciative and in heaven. Obstacles are always created in our mind, right? Only an optimistic and positive view can generate hope and overcome the obstacles. And joyful giving, we joyfully give of oneself to create heaven through equanimity and relinquishment. When we learn to give, the joy is generated from within. So as we give up something tangible, we are in fact gaining something less tangible and more valuable, right? If we have learned anything about the Tao and cultivation, it is that the tangible is basically, these are things that you can see, you can touch. They're temporary, okay? They don't last. But that should be replaced by the less tangible or the intangible, the things that really truly last, like the virtues, okay? And those are more valuable. So therefore, these four correct outlooks on life also correspond to four immeasurable minds of the Bodhisattva. All four are interlinked and should be practiced together. Realize that we are Tao cultivators of the white era, which means that we must carry out the mission of Bodhisattvas. Therefore, we also must strive to achieve the four immeasurable minds, and we can do that in conjunction with the four correct outlooks on life. Okay. All right. Okay. So, and then I leave you with this little short, little merciful scripture from Jesus Christ. Actually, says, "Blessed are those who sacrifice for Tao, because God is rejoicing in your mercy and righteousness. Blessed are those who pioneer Tao around the world, because Satan or Asura is far away from you, letting you be your own master." Okay. So, if we are not doing things, sacrificing or dedicating, or doing things for the Tao, trying to benefit sentient beings, then you can say the Satan or Asuras are giving us trouble all the time. You can say that it's also our karma is causing problems for us. But if we do these things, then Satan, the Asuras, will stay away from us. They'll let us be, because we are doing the work of heaven. Okay, spreading the Tao, and in doing so, we have the virtue and merits that will then pay off our karmic debts, and so we won't be as bothered by our karmic debts. And then blessed are those who are ridiculed and slandered, because God is making you perfect. Virtue never stands alone. Blessed are those who love to ferry people and give guidance to Tao Kin, because you are the most ideal disciple of Jigong Living Buddha and Yorhui Bodhisattva. Okay, so this is this is like being like water, right? It doesn't matter how dirty the water gets, it still retains its virtue, its value. Okay, but don't think that, oh, this is, I'm being taken advantage of or whatever. The God, heaven will make us perfect, right? Because, virtue never stands alone. When we have virtue, right, that's what God, the Buddhas, the saints, they all like to see that, and they will help us. And so this is, as disciples of Jigong Living Buddha, our holy teachers, okay, your holy Bodhisattva, we have to carry on the mission of the universal salvation of the three realms. All right, that is basically what we need to do. And okay, so let's see. Oh, sorry, one more. So the truth is, what is the truth, right? It's the wide propagation of heavenly Tao in the white era to ferry people back to eternal heaven, or, we say absolute heaven or heaven of truth, right? So that is the ultimate, that is really the final truth, if you will, in this world, is the propagation of the Tao, okay, to save sentient beings so that, to ferry them back to heaven, if possible, right? But we do our best. And that is really what the Bodhisattva is. That's what they do. That is their vow. That is their mission, okay? And to dedicate themselves, to sacrifice themselves without condition, right? To do that, to complete that mission. All right. Okay, that's it. So if I had said anything wrong or not satisfactory, I asked the Buddhas for forgiveness, and also asked transmitting masters and lecturers for corrections. And finally, I am dedicating the merits from this presentation of this topic to all the sentient beings who are suffering around the world. All right, thank you.